Well, indeed, congratulations to all of you at the Chamber. This is indeed an outstanding accomplishment, and as the Executive Director for the Southeast region, it is a real privilege to represent you in the Southeast region, so thank you and congratulations again. Now, as many of you know, Tom Donahue, the President of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, recently gave his annual State of the American Business Address, and during his remarks, he began by saying that in 2011, we are in better shape than we found ourselves a little more than a year ago. Last year, if you recall, we were worried about a double-dip recession, but today we are cautiously optimistic that the recovery will continue to pick up steam as this year progresses. However, we still face a number of challenges and risks that could send us in the wrong direction. For example, the housing and construction industry remain very weak. Oil and gasoline prices are rising rapidly, and many states are going broke and are going to be looking at raising taxes on businesses and consumers. Now, certainly last November's elections, the tax package that was signed into law extending the 2001-2003 tax levels, progress on the Korean Free Trade Agreement, and a new tone coming out of the White House has addressed some of the business community's immediate concerns, yet there remains a great deal of uncertainty among companies, investors, and lenders. And when you talk about job creation and jobs, we still have a very, very steep hill to climb. Unemployment has exceeded 9% for 20 consecutive months. That has not happened since the 1930s, and now some 27 million Americans either are unemployed, underemployed, or simply have just given up looking for work. Therefore, in 2011, the U.S. Chamber's top priority will be to turn this economic recovery into a jobs recovery so that we can put Americans back to work. To succeed, though, we must work to enact policies that will sustain and accelerate economic growth. We must make our domestic economy more attractive to global investors, job creators, and startup entrepreneurs by clearing away the impediments that are causing them to sit on the capital that they have, or worse, invest it outside the United States. And we must do right for future generations and for our economy by beginning a serious effort to cut runaway spending and reform entitlements by bringing government debt and deficits under control. But to successfully do so and to improve our economy and to strengthen America's competitive position in the world, we must take into account what other countries or nations are doing to improve theirs now. Other countries are signing trade agreements, forming alliances to share natural resources, and rapidly developing their own domestic energy supplies. Some are cutting taxes and regulations. They're pushing young people into science and engineering schools, and they're building brand new infrastructure at a much faster rate than we will do here in this country. As Tom Donahue has said, to deepen our own understanding about our nation's competitive challenges, we're going to do what any smart football coach would do before the big game. That is, we're going to learn everything there is to know about our own strengths and our own weaknesses and those of our competitors. The Chamber is now conducting this very kind of competitive analysis, and we're examining in a factual and objective way the actions of our own government, the actions of our business community, that are either moving us forward in the global economy or holding us back. And we're then going to compare that to what other nations or our competitors are doing. Our goal is to identify the major factors that shape the decisions of job creators, innovators, and investors, to pinpoint our strengths and build on those, and our weaknesses so that we can fix them. And we'll be releasing these findings at the end of the spring or early this summer. But at the same time, the U.S. Chamber is going to seek to focus our government's attention on more immediate concerns and priorities. I've mentioned a few of these already, but first, regulatory restraints and reform, expanding American trade, rebuilding our nation's economic foundation, and reducing the runaway spending, deficits, and debt. First, we must rein in the excessive regulations and reform the regulatory process. At the federal level alone, regulations already fill more than 150,000 pages of fine print text and cost Americans roughly $1.7 trillion a year. Many of these rules are necessary and the business community strongly supports them. However, in recent years, we have seen an unprecedented explosion of new regulatory activity. Furthermore, the administration is likely to turn increasingly to the regulatory agencies now that it may be more difficult to get legislation through Congress. For example, in the new health care law, it creates 159 new agencies, commissions, panels, and other bodies. In the financial regulatory reform law, or better known as the Frank-Dodd bill, it contains 259 mandated rulemakings, another 188 suggested rulemakings, 63 reports, and 59 studies. And businesses are also facing unprecedented regulatory activity and case law changes in the Department of Labor, the National Labor Relations Board, and similar agencies. Over 100 such efforts are currently underway, covering such things as compensation, contracting, leave, workplace safety, hiring and firing, and union organizing. This isn't to mention at all hardly any of the EPA's rulemakings and greenhouse gas regulations, which, by the way, if the EPA continues on its current path to unilaterally regulate greenhouse gases, it could regulate more than 6 million new entities, small businesses, hotels, warehouses, schools, and even churches. And beyond the greenhouse gases, the EPA's regulatory agenda lists more than 340 rulemakings in various stages of development and completion already. Another key priority of the Chamber this year will be to create jobs by advancing a pro-American trade agenda and doubling exports in the next 5 years, and then doubling that again 5 years afterwards. The administration must work urgently with the new Congress to approve the FTAs, the free trade agreements, with South Korea, Colombia, and Panama, because 95% of the people that we want to sell our goods and services to live outside of our borders. And today, there are more than 280 free trade agreements in force around the world. The United States only has 11, covering 17 countries. Third, we need to rebuild our economic foundation. Roads, bridges, rail, mass transit systems or networks, airports, air transport systems must be modernized. Broadband capability, power generation, and water supplies must be expanded. If we fail to act as growth returns, we will soon run out of capacity and our economy will hit a wall and we will physically be unable to grow. And the last issue we must address is the growth of government spending and entitlements, and with it, the explosion of government debt. The national debt already exceeds $14 trillion and is on pace to double in the next decade. To control deficits, we must first put unemployed people back to work so that they're paying taxes and not collecting benefits. Congress and the administration must work together swiftly to reduce spending. We'll also make the case for entitlement reform because any plan that fails to address these runaway programs is doomed to fail. And we're going to support efforts by governors, both Republican and Democrat, to challenge the public employee unions that about their excessive payrolls, health, and retirement demands, which are causing states to accumulate massive and sustainable debts. And lastly, while we understand that the philosophy gap on many of these issues may be too wide to bridge, we remain positive about the economy, and we feel confident enough that our elected officials will find enough common ground on many of these issues to make progress. To help them, though, the U.S. Chamber will keep our grassroots system, including our voter education and our issue advocacy programs, fully mobilized, fully funded, and fired up through 2011. We will continue to expand our free enterprise campaign to educate all Americans about the need for a proven economic system based on open markets, limited government, and the freedom to take risk, work hard, and be rewarded for those efforts. And we will vigorously defend the rights of companies and the associations that represent them to lobby, to petition the government, and to fully participate in the political and policy debates that will shape the future of our country. We will not allow the business community to be intimidated, and we will use every tool at our disposal to challenge those who try to silence the business voice. And while it is likely that we will continue to have differences with the White House on some issues, we know that we can, and we look forward to working with the administration on others, such as trade, education, infrastructure. These have been highlighted most recently in the State of the Union address. And we look forward to working with this new Congress. Our mission is clear: win policy victories for our members and the American business community, support, protect, and advance the free enterprise system, and to help create good jobs and a promising opportunities for all people of this nation so that it can achieve the American dream. With that, Patrick, again, thank you for the invitation to be here. Thank you for your support and your partnership with the U.S. Chamber and what you do for this chamber, this community, and the profession as a whole. And let me just thank all of you for your support and membership in this chamber and for what you do for the business community here in Moore County. And again, congratulations on the 4-star accreditation. Thank you very much.